I do not think about failing. Is anything actually a failure ultimately?
Yes.
Because you're going to learn from it no matter
You won't.
what happens. But no, I feel confident in what I've been dreaming up for so long. I feel
You're not dreaming up anything. You were partnering with a company and you got toward the end of that contract and that company was like, you better do something, lady. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Okay, let's make some slimy sauce. Okay, sounds good. Let's white label it, slap it on. And even if this does fail, it doesn't matter. She's not looking at it as a failure because it's keeping her in the news. That's why it's not a failure to her, because to her, all press is good press. Okay, that's what it is. All press is good press, and she'll still have money even if this endeavor fails, which, seems like it's going to.
but I think, look, at the end of the day, if I had gone into beauty, for example, and I have a lot of...
Was that a consideration at any point for you?
It was definitely something that people were asking me to get involved with. I mean, in these past
Did you
years,
have any...
Are you serious? This woman doesn't know how to apply bronzer, but she's going to have a makeup company. She over applies bronzer on almost every single public appearance. And she's really bronzed up in this episode, in case you haven't noticed. Talking to the beautiful woman of color, Miss Emma Grede here, and you notice how bronze Meghan is. But yeah, people have approached her to do a makeup line and a beauty line. Okay, I ain't buying it.
Any inclination where you're like, this could be fun?
I think it can be fun.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be a time for that. I think there'll certainly be a time for fashion. You and I could talk about that later. But I think, ultimately, I wanted to do what felt authentic, but I also recognize that, yes.
She said authentic again. I just wanted to point it out to you in case you didn't hear it.
There are variables that you don't have to think about when you're doing composition of makeup, right? You can buy all of your products, your supply chain, and you know that every single time you can count on those sort of scientific ingredients to yield the same product. One of your partners is not Mother Nature. If it's a bad season for berries, sure, that's going to affect your product.
No, there's farms all over the world. What is she talking about? What is she talking about?
Falls into place differently. So there are more.
She's just making excuses if stuff doesn't sell, or if she's not restocking, which we've seen her do. She doesn't restock in a timely manner at all. It was almost a month, a little longer than a month, I believe, in between her first launch and her second launch. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but someone serious in business would not have that long of a lapse as far as offerings and making sure things are ready to be bought and sold on the website. This is ridiculous.
There are more factors involved, but I do think at its core, it's still rooted in something that feels very true to me. And that's the springboard for everything else. Starts in the garden, starts with this beautiful, humble pot of jam that I don't care who you are, you're a little bit charmed by jam.
I'm not charmed by jam. I like jam, but I wouldn't say I'm charmed by it. Maybe I'd be charmed by it if my daughter made me some jam, learned how to make jam and gave me some jam. Maybe I'd be charmed by that, but I'm not charmed by your jam, Meghan. I'm sorry.
But then what does that do? That introduces you to what are the extensions of that I want you to start or end your day with, that I want you to treat yourself with or gift to friends. And then you say, well, now you're in my home. So what are the other hospitality and hostess pieces I want you to be able to share?
You have big ambitions for Azeba.
I do.
Yeah, I hope so.
I don't think she does. She doesn't come across as someone that has really big ambitions. Even the way that she was like, I do.
Why wouldn't you take that opportunity? I mean, I certainly would.
Yeah, I think it's also playful to be able to have fun in the exploration of what it could be. You can stay small.
Well, the world's your oyster right now. I mean, you start.
See, she's making excuses she's not going to make this a global brand. She's not going to have that type of success. So she's already framing it as if it stays small. She's still happy with that fact of it staying small. This is a bunch of BS.
You started with a few products, but you literally could do anything that you want to do. I've been talking to my friends nonstop about.
Oh, Emma. Meghan's not a friend. Just wanted to tell you.
Is there any part of you that feels any sense of imposter syndrome?
I don't. I think I have. I think that I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit.
Guys, this is when she goes into her definition of what imposter syndrome is. She doesn't know the definition of it. She doesn't know what imposter syndrome is. She just heard the word imposter and wants us to know and wants Emma to know that she is not an imposter and she doesn't think of herself as one. But let's just see how she answers this.
I enjoy being in a position of having a strong team around me, being able to help guide that team as a whole. And I've also, in the adventures of my life, I've certainly navigated through things that can in some ways feel bigger.
Yeah.
So this for me is just another chapter that I think is full of, I'm a very curious person, new learns. I love learning something
That's another thing she said through this podcast a lot. New learns.
new all the time. I don't feel imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
Oh, I'm really happy you said that. I speak to so many founders, and more often than not, they feel some sense of imposter syndrome. And I have so many women that will say to me, didn't you
Not me, though.
feel, or don't you feel imposter syndrome? And my answer is always no. I'm like, if not you, then who? Like, why would you feel
Yes.
that way, right? I feel like to some extent, we're all making up as we go along.
I don't really think Miss Emma knows what imposter syndrome means either.
Get a lot of experience and you've done, multiple startups like I have. Nothing is the same because you're never doing it in the same time, in the same culture, with the same people.
Yes, which I think true. Most people are doing that. Imposter syndrome is when you're posturing as though you know everything.
No.
You don't need to posture as though you know everything. It is perfectly okay for me as the founder and the owner of this company to say, sorry, what does that mean?
Yes.
Can you help me understand that? And actually, I think it's a really great posture.
I'll just tell you really quickly what imposter syndrome means. It means that you are entirely capable and you have had some measure of success in the past, but you're constantly self-doubting and second guessing yourself, even though you have demonstrated that you have credibility and you have knowledge and you have capacity to see things through into a success. But you somehow are so crippled by self-doubt that you're holding your own self back. And she's just, I don't know where, why, how, but she just heard the word imposter and was like, well, that's not me. I'm not pretending. No. What Megan's describing is a know-it-all, which is what I believe she is. But she's trying to act like she's not. But she is. She's a big, fat know-it-all.
That yes, I know what I know, but I'm also so excited to have people on this team that know more about certain avenues than I do because we're learning from each other. That's
So
not
long as
She's not happy. She's not happy to be in the presence of anybody who does know more than her. She doesn't like that. She's that type of personality where she does not like that. She doesn't want to learn from anybody. She wants to be the big wig in the room, any room that she walks into. She wants to be the one to dictate to everyone what's going to be going down. So I don't buy that.
So long as you
imposter
find that you've got to find great people and get out of their way. And I really believe in that because I think that as a founder, knowing what you don't know.
But she doesn't though. Meghan doesn't want to find people that know more than her and get out of their way and let them help her. Because if she really did, then her as ever would not be floundering like this. And that's the truth.
Is so important. Like you
and
got to
being
know what
honest
you're
about
great at.
it.
Yes.
Be honest about it. It's
Yeah, be
okay
honest
to
about
not
it,
know
Meghan.
everything.
Yeah.
That's part of the beauty of it.
And what does your team look like these days? Because you do so many things and you've
Yes.
got a lot happening. Do you work with the same team and then things get farmed out, or is it very, very
The opportunities that this woman has had, all the money and all the people that are in positions to give her chance after chance after chance. This is what we're left with, ladies and gentlemen. Her acting like she's an entrepreneur when she hasn't even really built anything yet. She's had two launches, which to me seem a lot like soft launches, scarcity soft launches. She's not giving us any real concrete advice or any real insight into the backstory, how she's doing what she's doing, how many she sold. None of it.
I have a small and mighty team for my office. And then I think obviously our foundation,
which has had massive, massive turnover since she's been in the United States. She's just
is independent of that, but those are the same executive directors we've had for a very long time who run it beautifully.
That is not true. All the reports are saying that this woman has massive turnover. I don't know what she's talking
And then
about.
you look at with Netflix, they have an entire team that they've devoted to this project specifically, being As Ever. Separate team for With Love Meghan. That's a crew of about 80 people.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
She doesn't have 80 people for that show, I can tell you right now.
lot of different teams. And at the same time, my core team that sits around me for all of the projects is, very, very strong, savvy women.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about the launch, because I thought it was very, very well executed, but you basically sold out of everything in about 45 minutes. Listen, I can't get you on that one because I don't know a business that I've had where, a couple of hours in, every single thing has been gone.
Everything.
You know why you haven't had that experience in any of your businesses, Emma? Because you were poised and ready to go with probably thousands upon thousands of units. So it probably took you a while to sell through them jeans for your Good American and all the other stuff you did, because you launched it in a real world type of way. You would study the market. You brought something to market that you knew would be a viable offering. People were into it. You had a lot to sell. Took a while, but you did it. She didn't do any marketing. She didn't do any research. It's crafted persona that she's been showing us since this show debuted on Netflix. So this show came around in the beginning of 2025, this year. That's when she reinvented herself as being this lovely hostess, next Martha Stewart-esque type of woman. That's why this brand isn't connecting with anybody, because we don't see her as that person. We look at this face and we see someone who is divisive and who is selfish and who is manipulative and who lies and bullies people. And that's in direct contrast to what she's trying to shield to us now as being the next Martha Stewart. No one buys it. No one buys it. So that's why she's found herself in the predicament that she's in.
But it comes with a lot, right? That comes with this, of course, you end up kind of fueling that idea of scarcity in your business, which is a great thing. It's never terrible to disappoint customers. But then,
see what I mean? Emma is so animated and so into it and knows what she's talking about, and she's an entrepreneur, and you can tell she's savvy. Okay, you can tell Emma is really savvy, and she's asking her questions and she wants her answers because she's done it. She's seen it. She's done the marketing. She's done the selling. She's done the research. She's done all of it. And you can just see Meghan just kind of like, like, because she hasn't proven herself yet. She hasn't proven herself in the business realm. And it's just like, that's why all these questions aren't really getting answered. These questions Emma are asking are not getting answered. They're just falling flat. And Meghan just doesn't even answer a lot of them. She just kind of goes off on this one maybe little part of what Emma asks, but then goes off and onto a tangent about that because it's a rehearsed talking point. It's not answering the questions that Emma's asking.
What did you do and how did you feel when everything was gone?
Well,
or I should ask you, was it planned? I mean, did you plan to actually?
No.
Okay.
It was a beautiful.
Who believes that?
Beautiful surprise. I had a feeling there would be a lot of interest. And we planned for that. We didn't plan for everything selling out in under an hour. And so watching those metrics happen in real time, I set my alarm for the exact moment we were going to go live, and watching it, getting texts from my friends saying, it's already sold out.
And when she launched the second time, the things that sold out first, I believe, were the honey and the apricot jam. And they were the new items that she hadn't had up for sale the first time. So all the other stuff, like the crepes and the cookies and those stupid flour sprinkles of hers, those took the longest to sell out. So that tells me right there that how good were the products the first time around if no one's scrambling to buy all. Okay, so say if you got your hands on it for the first go round and it was so wonderful and it was life-changing, you would probably be waiting for the second drop, and then as soon as it came on, you'd buy that too, right? So why did all that stuff take so long? It's like things that you think about when you're trying to dig deeper and find answers into what you think probably happened or why, because she could clear up all of this by just telling us how many she had to move. But she won't do that. That tells you right there that something stinks.
And then it was amazing. And also, to your point, because I'm business-minded, I'm immediately going, okay. Well,
anybody that's business-minded isn't going to tell you I'm business-minded. You just know.
This is going to be a big pivot. Now what? Because I knew that I had a decision to make, which came down to, what is our timeline to be able to restock these products that we had? Well, we can restock what we had at those same quantities, but then I'll have another sellout. And I don't want that for people. I think scarcity is great if it happens organically at the onset. But at a certain point, even being consumer minded, I would be fatigued if that kept happening and I was going to a website.
If the same thing happened, on the second launch, then how into the weeds were they into solving that problem to make sure that it didn't happen a second time? Because it happened a second time. So of course it's going to happen a second time when you don't have a lot of stuff to move. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense here. I'm like,
take this opportunity to grow,
Lordy,
to have
help us.
exponentially more SKUs as well as more inventory. And that's what we've been doing. We went right back to making sure we could scale up to that level.
Yes.
And have the quality meet the quantity, which was very key. And then if we have that opportunity of more time, the luxury of that is, well, the products that have been in development that were going to be punted to this quarter, should we pull this into this next launch? There's decisions to be made. And like, what can our offering be at this point that is larger than what sold out in that first run? So as a seasonal drop, I think that was really important.
While I listened to her just bang on here, I got my phone here. I'm just going to go to her as ever right now and see if everything is still sold out or what, or if you can even buy something. Let me click on her Napa Valley Rosé. Oh, hold on. You have to put your birthday. It says sold out. So what did they do? To make sure? Yeah, everything on this website is sold out. I'm sorry, but for her to say that she's not dabbling in the scarcity type of marketing, it's such
important to say.
It's such BS.
Let's get it back, but let's get it back in a much bigger way, which is what we've been working towards.
You should be able to buy things and have them not be sold out like this. This is vanity metrics for Meghan. We all realize what's happening here. This is her playing to her own ego, because if she doesn't sell out, she is going to be scared that people are going to say that no one cares about her stuff. But if she can just offer a few things and have her diehards buy them, and she can say that she's sold out, I think it helps her sleep a little better at night.
Really important decisions.
Even though she knows the truth.
You have to decide, and I'm guessing that you're learning all the time about reputation management, your customers, supply chain. Like, how are you thinking about those things?
She's not even listening to the questions.
Because they are all such big decisions in the beginning for any founder. Like, you're the one that needs to decide how you're showing up for customers every day.
It comes with a lot of pressure. Because when that call comes down to you, when I have to make that call, you don't.
She's not making these kind of calls. She's really not. Who believes she's making any kind of real calls in this business?
Know if it's going to be the right call. You just have to trust your gut. And that's ultimately what it goes back to. I say, if I was the person that waited so long to get that product, do I want to a second go around not be able to get the product? Or do I want to be?
That's exactly what's happening right now. I pulled up her website. I don't know if you guys can see this. Everything says sold out on this thing. Every single thing. So everything that she's saying right now in this interview, garbage, 100% garbage. And mind you, this was 2 weeks ago, and then her second launch happened after this interview. And it's constant. All she does is contradict
I want to be
herself.
able to buy it and share it with all my friends, putting myself in the mindset of someone who supported me for a long time and want to be able to get it, or the 15-year-old girl who's saved up her money to be able to buy a couple of the offerings that we have. 15-year-old
girls are not saving up to buy crepes and jam. Okay. Obviously not talking about the wine, but they're not flour sprinkles. What would a 15-year-old girl want with flour sprinkles? A 15-year-old girl is going to Ulta, probably wanting to buy a perfume or some lip gloss and stuff, some makeup or some fun body products or hair products or something. They're not going to want to buy old lady flour sprinkles and crepes from this woman. Give me a break, Meghan.
But it does come with pressure, and all you can do is make the best decision with the information that you have, and that's what I've been doing. And to trust your gut. I think that's so key.
It is key.
So your gut's wrong, Meghan, because you said that you wouldn't want to have people be disappointed going to your website, people, especially people who have supported you, and they can't buy your products. And she works very hard at making sure that things are stocked and things are run properly. Well, You failed again, my dear, because again, everything's sold out. It'd be nice if you told us how many units you have or what's going on here.
I think the number one thing that you have to do is, again, like you said, put yourself in the position of your customers and just listen to your intuition.
I wonder what all her supporters are saying who can't buy her stuff. Would she even listen to them? Well, I don't know. She won't open her comments up okay, I could see, let's just play devil's advocate here. Okay, fine. Don't open up the comments on your personal Meghan Instagram profile, but you sure as hell should be opening them on your as ever for a freaking business, for a business. Don't you want feedback? Don't you want people commenting and giving you feedback so that you can improve and you can make sure that you're offering your customers what they want? What are their expectations for your brand? How can you meet them? How can you do better? How can you exceed their expectations? How would she know? She doesn't even care to engage with people on her business Instagram profile to find out how she can best serve their needs. That speak to you, someone that is really, really interested in building this brand?
Yes. Well, and also trying to make sure you have all the metrics and all the learns that you can, but when everything sells out in 45 minutes,
But really good problems to have.
good problems to have, champagne problems, as they call them.
Absolutely,
and
they are.
You know, the world is learning with me in real time. We're learning together.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be learning with you, not when you've got Netflix backing you and all this money behind you and this worldwide platform. Why are you failing this miserably in front of the world? And like we're just learning along with her.
There are so many comparisons right now, right? It's like people are saying you're the next Martha Stewart, you're the next Gwyneth
No one's
Paltrow.
saying
So
that.
2 questions. How do you feel about that? But also, what's going to set this brand apart?
Have you heard anyone compare her to Martha Stewart? I haven't. Or Gwyneth Paltrow? I haven't. Gwyneth is actually an Oscar-winning actress. So she went to the top in her field of acting. And now she's in the top for this holistic lifestyle wellness realm. She's one of the top names. So Gwyneth actually succeeds in what Gwyneth tries to do. She's not everyone's cup of tea. I think she's a really great actor. Shakespeare in Love is one of my favorite movies, but I don't really give 2 rips about her whole Goop thing. I think it's kind of, I don't know. It's just too elitist and out of touch weirdo for me, but there are people that like it. She's making money. She's succeeding. She's got a crap ton of people following her crack eggs in her skillet on Instagram. But this one?
And apart, because you're in a very, very different time right now. It's a different culture. I think consumers are super, super wise. So, I want to ask you those 2 things. How do you feel about it?
I think that's very flattering. Those are incredibly successful businesswomen. So
no one's comparing you, Meghan. Emma's just being nice.
I don't take that lightly. That means a lot if there's any comparison made in that regard. And I also think it was really important to me. I remember where I come from, right? So I knew that I wanted things to be reflected in the same way that I put an outfit together for years, high-low. I knew I wanted this brand to be masstige, and to come out of the gate with something luxury didn't make sense to me. So
masstige is a term in the retail industry. It's items that are perceived to be luxury items, like they look and seem luxury. However, they're more attainable price-wise. So I guess what she's saying is that her jams and her crepes and her cookies and whatever, they appear to be luxurious, but yet the price points are still accessible to the masses. So that's what she's saying. So she's giving the masses luxury, but it's still attainable in its price points because it's all, say, under $40, $50 or whatever. But I would argue that jam, I mean, how much is this damn spread of hers? I need to stop calling it jam because it's not. Okay, so the raspberry spread is $9. The honey's $28. The crepes are $14. The tea is $12. There's a lot of people out there that cannot afford a $9 jar of jam, or spread. $3-4 is kind of pushing it for some people. People are buying Walmart Equate store brand because that's all they can afford. Prices, the cost of living is sky high right now in America, and in many parts of the world. So for her to kind of try to play both sides of this fence by saying that it's mastige, but it still is a luxury for quite a bit of people. So that really shows how out of touch she is. She's always trying to do that. She's always trying to appeal to everyone. And when you appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. If you're going to have a luxury brand, then just have a luxury brand and have your jam be $12, $10, $20 even, but don't make excuses and don't say, oh, I wanted it to be mastige, meaning she wants to have it be accessible. Well, for a lot of people, that's not accessible. $28 for a freaking jar of honey is not accessible for a lot of people. I wouldn't spend $28 on a jar of honey. I think that's stupid. I could buy 6 jars of wild honey, clover honey from my area. I could go to a farmer's market and probably get something that is a way higher quality than whatever she's shilling. And I wouldn't pay $28 a jar for it either.
So
Whatever.
the price point itself, with nearly everything being under $20, was key. I think that's a differentiator. Never sacrificing on quality, being engaging in a customer service manner, I think is really important. But also, you know, the show reflects the spirit of what I ultimately want to put out in the world. And though they're not the same thing, and by design, look, the show and the brand are not named the same thing.
Yeah. Smart, by the way.
No, they're just not. They complement.
I don't really think that's smart. I think a lot of people don't think that's smart. Wouldn't it be better to build brand recognition by calling the show and your product line the same thing? That would seem to make a more heck of a lot of sense than what she's doing here.
Complement each other. They can talk in the same conversation, but they are not the same. And so knowing that I have
Why aren't they the same though? Why? It's not like she's got a show about flipping houses, but then she's got an as ever brand selling jam. I mean, of course they should talk to each other. I mean, but she's saying, oh, they talk to each other, but they're not the same. Why aren't they the same though? That doesn't make sense. That shows you that there's no business plan here. It's so rando.
I have a vehicle to be able to share the things that I love to do.
And I'm not even the type of person who is sitting here saying, I know how to run a jam empire or whatever. But it's like, I've watched this kind of stuff and I feel like I even know more than what she's doing. And so many of us watch her bumble through this whole thing. And we're like, we could probably think that it makes sense to have your show and your product talk to each other and be the same.
I feel flattered by the comparisons, and I feel excited that I'm sharing things that are important to me and how I would do things in my own home.
Selling, you're selling, you're selling, you're selling, you're not sharing.
And that I hope people translate that to theirs as well.
No doubt. Given that
I like the no doubt.
No,
It's okay to say that you want to sell things and you want to make money. I think it would be okay for someone who's a normal person who hasn't done the things that she's done. And also a person that doesn't come from such wealth and privilege. And make no mistake about it, she comes from wealth and privilege. She was upper middle class growing up. Her dad made a very, very comfortable living while he was working as a lighting director, an Emmy-winning lighting director. She went to private schools her entire life. She has stepped on the backs of men her entire life to get what she wants. Men have financed her. And now she's got this little passion project and her husband is funding it. So that's why she's bumbling and fumbling around.
Great.
And it, it might work and it might not. At the end of the day, it's all the same to her. I think she's trying to build her resume and keep her name out there in the news. And this is how she's doing it, through runny, slimy spread.
Really? I mean, I really do. I watched the show. I feel like
Did you make
very
anything?
clear. I did not make anything. I'm not going to lie.
Do you cook?
I am such a cook. Like such a cook. But I cook, it's like
Did you see Megan's face? She wanted to know if Emma made anything from her show. And Emma was like, no. And then Megan's first response is, well, she must not be a cook, or she must not like to cook if she didn't. So she says, are you a cook? And Emma's like, I love to cook. I am a cook. She didn't like that because she didn't cook anything from the show because there was nothing inspiring to want to cook. Okay. Taking a bunch of noodles and stuff and throwing it into a pot and calling it a one pot pasta thing or whatever. Martha Stewart did that years ago and she did it better. That's why Emma wasn't inspired, okay? Because Emma doesn't want to make whatever gross stuff she was doing, or she doesn't want to cut up rainbow fruit and call that entertaining on a party platter or whatever.
I don't have a lot of time to cook, but
Yes, I
I take
understand that.
time off. Like Thanksgiving, the 3 days running up to Thanksgiving, I cook for 3 days
Do you
straight.
do
And
Thanksgiving now that you've been here?
like literally, it might be, it's for me, it's like Christmas practice.
But it's also like a Sunday roast in the UK.
Exactly.
isn't
So
it?
I'm an absolute expert.
And I don't really like how Meghan likes to always kind of insert little things about the UK. Like when they were doing the promotion for this podcast, how she was like spilling the tea. That's a reference to the royal family. Or she'll be like, oh, just like a Sunday roast in the UK. And I'm like, well, you hate the UK. You don't feel comfortable in the UK. You think they're out to kill you in the UK. So stop talking about the UK.
Expert of it. I do like, like an English American mashup. I do like a Yorkshire pudding and I do a roast potato, but of course I do, like sweet potato pie and I
love
do
it.
like the greens and, a ham and
Yeah, because it sounds like Emma knows how to cook. I love it. I just have everything catered. Didn't Meghan come out in the New York Times in that article and say that she didn't even cook for Thanksgiving this past year?
those type of things. And I feel like it feels like you're getting so much joy out of this. But it's an interesting thing when it's something that you love so much, but there's also huge ambition around it. And I wonder,
Look at her face. Does that look like someone that's in love with cooking and homemaking? She's like,
is that structure going to work for you as you go forward? Do you think there's a time you're going to have to go out and raise capital?
Potentially. It depends on what we want the growth trajectory to look like. But I think, there
she goes with the nose again because she knows she just doesn't care about growing this brand. She's just she's like in the ocean, almost drowning, holding onto her Titanic door. She's like, oh, I'll never let go. I'll never let go. I'll never let go.
And all the contracts and logistics surrounding it have really set up what the future can look like together with the series that we'll be able to share later this year. Obviously, season 2 coming. But I think
it's not season 2, guys. It was all filmed at the same time. All filmed at the
what's
same
really
time.
exciting about it is it's the evolution of the partnership that we've had with Netflix for so many years to now say we're doubling down.
Because it's a last chance you got, lady. That's why they're doubling down. They're probably quadrupling down at this point, like getting blood from a turnip.
After. So it's huge. It's great. But yes, I mean, as we continue to grow, you might be looking to expand, certainly globally.
I have absolutely no doubt in that.
Thank you.
When you think about the failure
Emma's very polite. I'll give her that. She's very polite.
rate for first-time entrepreneurs.
And she's got beautiful skin
does that
too, I gotta
ever
say.
concern you? Have you even let your mind go there?
I do not think about failing. No.
You're not scared of failing.
Is anything actually a failure ultimately?
Yes.
Because you're going to learn from it no matter
You won't.
what happens. But no, I feel confident in what I've been dreaming up for so long. I feel
You're not dreaming up anything. You were partnering with a company and you got toward the end of that contract and that company was like, you better do something, lady. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Okay, let's make some slimy sauce. Okay, sounds good. Let's white label it, slap it on. And even if this does fail, it doesn't matter. She's not looking at it as a failure because it's keeping her in the news. That's why it's not a failure to her, because to her, all press is good press. Okay, that's what it is. All press is good press, and she'll still have money even if this endeavor fails, which, seems like it's going to.
feel confident in the partner that I have. And I feel really proud of the team that I have. So that's not an option.
It's not an option. I love that you say that's not an option because there's just such an intense narrative around everything that you do. I can't imagine not being a bit scared. Like I'm always scared when I start something, but nobody's even watching me. Like I get to fail in a corner on my own
With your glass of wine.
Okay.
We all know why there's an intense narrative around this woman. We've talked about it. Everyone knows about it. And it's a shame that Emma's not really asking her about that. Now that would have made this podcast really good and really juicy. But, everything is vetted ahead of time. And anything beyond that, Meghan will not answer or stand for.
Thank God nobody was watching that. But it's very different for you. And so I'm surprised that you say that.
I'm not saying that there aren't moments where I don't feel scared. Of course you do. But as I've continued to say to myself, and whatever I'm going through, my faith is greater than my fear. I believe in myself. I believe in the team around me. I believe in our potential for success. And is that the same metric that someone else is putting on it? No. For me,
I talked about this in my other video about when she said that my faith is greater than my fear, she's not talking about God. She is talking about her own belief in herself, because she is the goddess of her own universe. She is her own personal God. She doesn't see anything beyond her. So when she talks about faith, she's not talking about God.
It would have been a huge success and not a failure if
I
I
will
was selling my homemade
link
jams
that
at
video.
farmers market and I'd gotten a cottage license. I applied for that in the county of.
Oh yeah, and here she goes again, saying that she would be as proud of herself or see it as a success just as much if it was just, say, her at a farmer's market or her with a cottage business license making jam out of her home. Please, if that were the case, then she would just do that. That's not success for her, because success for her isn't so much the success of the business. It's just people talking about her. It's just people talking about what she's doing. That's her definition of success.
Santa Barbara, where you can literally
You'd be
go
like,
and
yes.
I was like, great, you can make the goods in your home and sell them. That would have been a success for me.
No, it wouldn't.
So someone else's sense of what that looks like is not necessarily what mine is.
That's such garbage. That is such garbage, because she doesn't live her life according to that principle of what she just said, because that is somehow framing it as if, she only really cares about how she feels she's done. If she's proud of herself and she feels like she's given it her all, then that's good enough for her. But the way that she lives her life constantly, and remember how she told Jamie Kern Lima that she doesn't want to be in the prove it game anymore, but everything she does still shows us that she's running that race. She's participating in the prove it game. That's what her life has become. That's what her whole life is. Her Instagrams, her podcasts, her shows, her scam jams. It's all about the prove it game. This is garbage. This is nonsense. This is selfishness, ego, pride. This is worrying so much about what the world thinks about you and constantly trying to prove yourself worthy. She does not have God in her life. She doesn't have a center, a strong center. She doesn't realize that she is a child of God who does not need to engage in this type of narcissistic prove it game, power play stuff that she's just been doing. And when you don't have fulfillment in Christ and know that you're enough and know that you don't have to do this kind of stuff, then this is how you're going to act. This is a really shallow, hollow, sad existence. We shouldn't worry so much about what people think about us. Yes, we should be good people and we should want to be a good example of Christ's love and light in the world. And of course, we want to make others happy and we want to love our neighbors as ourselves. But she doesn't love us so much as she wants us to revere her and admire her and almost worship her. And that's her driver. That's her driver, is wanting to be just talked about and admired and revered. She wants that so much. It's not so much that she wants us to look up to what she's doing and say, hey, that's cool, and maybe I can do that for myself. No, she wants worship is what she wants. She is her own God and she wants us to worship her. So when she talks about all this garbage about, it doesn't matter if it's a huge success, that's all that matters to her. It's not so much success. It's just being talked about and being worshiped. It's my opinion.
And that will continue to grow. But no, I don't see the possibility of failure. Not when you can learn from everything that you've done.
The way that you speak about both imposter syndrome and failure, because these are two things that
means that she doesn't understand the concept of either, but okay.
Again, but I do also want to demystify the idea that we have to feel that we have to go around feeling really scared and we have to believe that this is not a journey for us. And so I wonder what in your...
Normal people feel scared. Normal people do second guess themselves. Hopefully not to the point where they're letting imposter syndrome sabotage what they want to do in their life. But of course, people are going to be fearful of failure. That shows that you got real skin in the game if you're scared of failure. But when you're being backed up by your husband's money, of course, you're not going to really care if you fail, because she still has that platform. Even if this does fail, and even if everyone is talking about her like the way I'm talking about her right now, she still has people talking about her. That's what's important to her. But mind you, we're not going to give her what she wants. We're going to break this apart to show that this way of living and this way of navigating through the world is unhealthy and it's wrong and it's what's wrong with the world. It's this sensationalism. It's this just madness. Her whole life is about the self, but there's no self introspection. So it's a very weird way to be and conduct yourself. She's very, very into the self, but yet it's not self introspective in the sense that she's looking to learn and do better and to see and really meet the criticism even halfway. Like, she hasn't met any of the criticism that she has received since she married into that family. She hasn't even met it even halfway to say, I can kind of understand why people would say X, Y, and Z. She's never done that. Never. Not once.
Well, I think words matter. And I think certain words and terms become very topical and trendy, and they just become part of the vernacular. And at a certain point, you go, why do I keep reinforcing this idea? Because it's topical, right? And I ultimately believe
So I guess this is her way of clapping back and explaining why she doesn't listen to any criticism that is hurled at her, that it's all just noise and it's all like catchphrases and people that are trying to put women down, especially women of color, as she has identified since she's been married into the royal family, which before she never did. And to use race as she has to try to further her narratives and to circumvent criticism, it's diabolical. So this is her way of just shrugging off things that people are going to say about her. And it was like in that video I did where I had that Irish Catholic priest who made that video about Meghan and got all the clap back. And he was like, fair enough, but I don't really think that I was unfair in what I was saying. It's not like we're out here criticizing Meghan for things that she can't control, like her gender and her race. What we're criticizing is behavior. And even the priest said, when you've got this amount of criticism, what's stopping her and people that defend her from saying, hang on a minute, why? Why is there so much criticism? Let's look into this. But she will never look into it.
The more you can change your thoughts, you're going to change the things around you.
So you're a big believer in mindset?
You have to be.
Yes.
I think as a female, as any founder, but as a female founder, you have to train your mind to literally be so focused on what your goal is, to be
I think anybody, man or woman, when they are trying to succeed in a business and they're an entrepreneur, especially if they're a person that's not rich and privileged like Meghan, who has one chance, one shot to really make it, man or woman, they have to be laser focused. I'm so tired of these people these feminists trying to make it seem like it's so much harder for women. It's like, that is such crapola. I mean, give me a break. I'm a Gen Xer, and I have never been made to feel, not once in my life, that I couldn't do something because I was a woman. Absolutely not. This is garbage. And she's 7 years younger than I am. We both grew up in multicultural, multi-ethnic Los Angeles and Southern California. So I don't know what she's talking about. And she's talking about toxic catchphrases and things in the vernacular. Well, she's the one that's perpetrating it, in my opinion.
So, as I said in the podcast I was doing, laser focused on what your intention is. There isn't room for a tremendous amount of self-doubt with that. It will be there. But when it appears, you have to train yourself out of it.
You got to shut it down.
Yeah. And I don't think that it's helpful to indulge some of the language that is going to be self-limiting. I don't think that helps anyone grow. And I don't think being fear-based, yes, being risk-averse.
But with her, she doesn't indulge any of it. Anytime anyone says anything or probably tries to criticize her, whether it's publicly or privately, she shuts that down immediately. So there is no capacity for self-growth for this woman. Oh, you guys, but yeah, hold on. Here we go.
Risk-averse, very valuable. Talking yourself out of it or talking yourself into negative self-talk is not valuable as a founder.
So how have you trained yourself to do that? Do you think that comes from your background as an actress?
Could be. I mean, when I was an auditioning actress.
Okay, guys, I can feel my eyeballs rolling in the back of my head. And Yeah, this is just crazy. I want you guys to let me know down in the comments what you think about some of the points that I brought up and some of the stuff that we've gone over in this one. But this is just a bunch of her again trying to rewrite the narrative. And did you also notice how her entire persona in this interview with Emma is completely different than the way she was with Jamie? And I'm not even talking appearance, because she was much more casually dressed and didn't have as much makeup on. That's obvious. Even though her and Jamie kept saying that they weren't wearing makeup, they weren't wearing makeup. I did a whole video about how that was garbage. Yes, they're wearing makeup. I'm an esthetician and a makeup artist. I know makeup when I see it. So that's BS. Don't believe that. But but yeah, so appearance aside, her whole demeanor was completely different in that video with Jamie. She was much more soft-spoken. Do you remember? And she was talking in a lower voice, and it was much slower. And she was like touching her eyes a lot and making it seem like she was on the verge of tears a lot. So that's a whole different person. This is what scares people about her. It's which version are we going to get? It's very scary. It's like you're watching a shapeshifter. If you have stayed to the end of this video, you are a trooper. Thanks for sticking with me. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't. I know so many of you watch my videos and are not subscribed yet. So it does so many wonderful things for the algorithm and to get my channel out there. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye.